So a good evening from Rob Palmer as the teams take to the field. York City of the second division, a big night for them, taking on Manchester United.
When you're in the lower leagues, the opportunity to go and face a top club is every draw that you're ever involved with. It's that dream that can we get a dream draw, and it's probably the next day when you first go into training after the draw's been made that you sort of walk in and the whole club's buzzing, from the fan base to everybody in the offices to the team. It's an amazing feeling that you're going to get that opportunity to go and play at the Theatre of Dreams against the Manchester United team over two legs. So yeah, it's probably the next morning when you walk in and the boys walk in, it just instantly look at each other and think, wow, what an opportunity we've got here.
Eric Cantona may be free to play at York after the end of his ban.
Wow. The league's always the most important thing, but behind, you don't want to pick up an injury or something that's going to mean you miss that game. But yeah, it's always nice to have it there to look forward to. And I think as a player, you want that opportunity to be able to test yourself against players you see week in, week out on Match of the Day, and see how close you can come to compete with them. Probably the first real memories are like coming on the coach up towards Old Trafford and looking at the fans, and they knew enough to look at you, the United fans, like, this, you're going to get slaughtered here, guys. And I think there was a real confidence among us, though. And a friend of mine was actually the head groundsman at Old Trafford. Mm. And when we came out to have a walk, before the game, I sort of went and had a hug with him. He's a lad I've known for a while, and I said to him, "You have tested both these nets. I don't want it going through when I score, And we had a laugh about it, but it was nice to see a friendly face and someone I knew there. But I don't think we ever went there thinking we're just here to have a nice day. Or I think we genuinely went there and thought we knew we were a good side and we want to compete here. So yeah, mixed emotions, and then obviously to go 1-0 up on the night was great. I imagine a great following. There was a great following from York that night, and I just think anyone that has watched the game back realizes how well York played that night. It wasn't a fluke. We didn't clear 20 shots off the line. The scoreline didn't lie that night. We played really well, and it's nice to go back, and I haven't seen the game for a while, but I did watch the game back and then remember thinking how well we played that night. And it was great because there was players in that York team like Nigel Pepper, John McCarthy, people like this that went on to have great careers, and it was nice that they had that ability to go and compete against top players and not feel like you were out of your depth, really. So yeah, it was super nice to challenge yourself and step up and realise that there are levels that you can hit.
Trying to get it to Giggs, didn't quite fall. Great control by the man in the number 7 shirt. No, it's not Cantona yet, it's Neville tonight. Barnes with a shot, takes a deflection. Oh, dear me! Wrong-footed Kevin Pilkington. And York City have taken the lead at Old Trafford. And boy, is he happy.
What do you remember about the first goal in particular?
Just remember sort of picking it up deep, stepping inside, and I was always one, if the chance opened up, I was going to have a shot. So it was always going to be, if I'm within 25, 30 yards and I get the opportunity to shoot, I was going to have a shot. So just really that feeling of it's in, and then embarrassed by the celebration now sort of thing, which obviously you look back and cringe a little bit. But I think it was what we deserved. I thought we started the game really well, and to get the opportunity and go 1-up was great.
To hit half time and go in there leading, that must have been a special feeling there.
Yeah, it was, and again, it was. This is half time. We've played well, we competed, and Alan would never let us get above ourselves. That's how he was as a manager and everything. And I think it was a case of, listen, let's not now let ourselves down and take a foot off the pedal. It was more a case of, guys, we've shown that we can compete here. We've got nothing to be scared of, and let's make sure we go out and give it a second half and do the same sort of thing.
You said it did as well. I think it was 2-0 after not too long in the second half, and you were the
Yeah.
one that took the penalty. Did you expect to be taking the penalty as soon as it was given?
Yeah, I'm sure before we'd have decided that I was going to, if there was a penalty, I would have taken it. And I remember getting like going through and getting taken down, and I knew it was right on the edge of the box, but I thought I'd try to be clever, go and pick the ball up and put it on the spot, try and make the referee feel like, well, it must be a penalty. They're that convinced. So yeah, I can remember putting the ball on the spot and just probably the way I'd normally take a penalty, nothing different.
Arms go up, asking for offside. He wasn't, and that's got to be a penalty. Well, it's got to be a sending off, unfortunately, I think, for Pat McGibbon. I don't think there's any other alternative for the referee. Barnes had turned him. He's looking for a second goal, Barnes. He's got it, and you can feel the tremor around Great Britain.
Either give the keepers the eye, look the other way, and place it the other way. But I remember it's a great feeling when you see the ball hit the net and you're 2-0 up, away at Old Trafford.
And yep, obviously we went on to Sky third and then win the game. But did it sink in straight away after the game? Did it sink in the enormity of what you'd just done?
Probably not really, because I think you get the newspapers the next day and it's all over the national press, so it starts to hit home more then. But I think we knew we'd played really well, and I think there was I think among a group of players there, we knew we had good players within that team, and there was probably players that went on to play at high levels after proving themselves in that game. So I think it was more just a case of obviously jubilation, amazing for the city and the fans, and just a pat on the back for everyone that took part in it. And like I say, just a little bit more credit that we knew we were a good side, and there was players in that team that both fullbacks were fantastic. Andy Mack and Ginner. It was like I remember Ginner doing a step over and sending Ryan Giggs the wrong way, and just laughing to myself. It was like this shouldn't be how it is, but it was. And on that night, everybody just stepped up to a level that was absolutely fantastic. Well, I remember I got the Man of the Match award, so I got a Coca-Cola bike. So I had to go and do that, get a Coca-Cola bike, which I can't remember whether it came back on the coach, probably underneath with the kit. So I had to go and do that. So that was first thing I had to do for a while, and then I managed to get up into the players' bar and have a quick drink. But my wife was pregnant with our first daughter at the time, so I can remember obviously speaking to my wife sort of afterwards. But yeah, it all went quite quick. So like I say, you were busy. You were talking to the press because suddenly the press wanted to speak to all the guys, and because you'd scored twice, obviously everyone wants to talk to you. So it's probably more when you got a chance to sit on the coach on that journey back that we actually had chance just to relax and chat about the night and have a few laughs about things that had happened on the night, and really start to take it in. Not much sleep that night. I can remember, you're on a real high after the buzz of the game, and I think I went into Radio York or something the next morning. I said to them I would go in and walking along up towards the Minster, and amount of people that are pipping their horns, and so yeah, just a great feeling. Great feeling.
What instructions were you given, and what made it work against such a bigger club like Manchester United?
Yeah, I think it was just Alan's way. He was a very humble, down to earth guy, and I think it was more of, listen, we're not here just to make the numbers up. It's a chance for you guys to go and show the level that you can play at, and it's a chance to go and compete against these players. And I think we probably took them a little bit by shock. I think they probably maybe thought the team coming up from the lower leagues, they'd find it quite easy. But I think we just played very well on the night. I really do. We passed the ball well. Everybody did their job. We were competitive. And then as another goal went in, you could see the faces of the United players, the shock of it. And then suddenly a few substitutions come on. And yeah, just like I say, it wasn't a fluke result. It was a result, I think, that the team deserved that night. They played so well. It was a result that everybody at the club deserved.
And we'll use this chance as well to give a little bit of a tribute to Alan Little. What was he like as a manager in general?
Yeah, so honest. He expected everyone who went out there to perform. to the best of their ability, leave nothing on the pitch.
We gave them a little surprise, didn't we, with the way we went out and applied ourselves, the way the team played, and the way we put them under pressure.
Never miss a tackle. Don't pull out of a tackle. Whether it was a Friday morning in training before on a game on a Saturday, Alan had joined in the circle, and you better beware, because if that ball came short, he'd be going right through you. So he just tactically got it right on the night. But Alan was a manager that give you all, come back in. If it's not enough, it's not enough. But come back in knowing that you'd given you all, when you played. And I think everything came together. And like I say, so chuffed for Alan on that night that he managed to go up against Alex Ferguson at Old Trafford and win 3-0.
The team, the guys that you played with there, do you still keep in touch with a lot of them to this very day that you know well?
Yeah, Andy McMillan I speak to quite a lot. And, John McCarthy's always been a good friend of mine. So, yeah, you don't see them all the time, not at all. But it's nice to touch base with them, a few times. And TC and Pep and that I still come across at the odd do or something like that. But no, it's nice that I think if we ever get together, there's that special bond that you can always look back on, not just the night at Old Trafford, but on getting promoted as well at Wembley and things like that. I think it was a great period for York as a club, and it would be lovely to see them getting back into the league and having the same sort of success for probably the fans that haven't had that. I mean, it was great because you look back now, and obviously Giggs and Beckham and people like that were there. But not long afterwards, obviously, I left York and I went to Birmingham, and Steve Bruce joined Birmingham. And I remember the first thing he sort of said was, how you didn't get a hat trick that night because I got given offside.
Looking for a fourth. They can't quite believe there is. They've almost got one. Barnes is there, but he's offside. He thought he had his hat trick then. It was a hairline decision.
After playing a 1-2 around Brucey, and he was like, "You were never offside." He said, "I couldn't believe." But he said, "Fair credit." He said, "You took us." He said that night you all played so well. So it was lovely to get a credit from people that were involved for United that night. That, like we were saying, it wasn't something that was a one-off and just a fluke, and they did everything but score. I think we came away from that night with a lot of credit as a club, as a team, supporters. That. Wow, York City turned up not just to be here and make the numbers up. They turned up and put on a performance, that we're still being remembered now. So it was, such a great night.
I'm 30 years on. What did that result mean for your career and for York City as well at the time?
Yeah, I think, like I said, you picked up the papers the next day and the whole country was suddenly aware that York City were, had gone to Old Trafford and won 3-0. Obviously, quite a few of the players moved on to play at higher levels. As on a personal note, it made you realise and give you that desire to want to try and get and play as high as you can in football. And I'm sure it did that for a few of the other players. And I still bump into people now that will say York City 3-0 at Old Trafford that night. So it's amazing the amount of people that still want to talk about it. So yeah, a night that you never get tired of talking about. And like I say, the main thing, hopefully, the club have still got some amazing nights ahead of them. And I'm sure the night they get back into the Football League will be great. And then hopefully they can move on and achieve their own history, But it's always nice to look back and know that you were part of that evening. Yeah, I think just maybe realising that you look around the team and what they've achieved and there were some real great characters in that team. It was everyone that was involved in York that time. There was some great characters. The groundsman we had at the time was Fozzie. He was an amazing character. And I think just going back into the club the week afterwards and seeing so many people that had been at the game that night and the joy that it brought to them and how proud they were of how the York and the city had dealt with the evening, the fans that had been to the game. So I think it was more just a massive pat on the back for the York City, for the club, for the city, the way that the whole evening had gone. And like I say, some real characters around that dressing room, Jed and Marples and Pep and people like this, that probably never had the chance to experience anything like that. And so the night they did get the chance, they stepped up and proved that they rightly have a place in York City history.
You've spoken about the fans on multiple occasions, but just looking back at it now, how much did that game sort of bring everyone together, the players, the fans, the management team, like everyone?
It's almost the conga on the terraces. Those York fans are going to remember this date, the 20th of September 1995. One of the greatest nights in the club's history. They've still got to finish it off at Bootham Crescent, but they're going to be partying on this one for at least a fortnight.
Yeah, massively, because probably fans went over there just to go and experience Old Trafford. I'm sure there wasn't one of you spoke to them before the game said we were going to go there and win 3-0. So it just mean an amazing, the fans that were there and are now at an age probably like us that can look back and say, I was there the night York City went to Old Trafford and won 3-0. So it's part of York's history, and that will never change. And I'm sure as a York City fan, you don't get that many times you can stick your chest out and say how proud you were and what we've achieved. So that night, I think, hopefully gave a lot of fans bragging rights across the whole country. They've probably got mates that support Man U, and they'd be able to go into work the next day and give them a little bit of a ribbon about what their team, because it's not easy sometimes supporting a team that's in the lower leagues. Sometimes you don't get loads of great time. So to have a night like that, I'm sure every York City fan had an opportunity to go and have their little evening or day of boasting a little bit about the night that York City went there and won 3-0.
Do you still keep an eye out for York City results? Do you watch any of the games nowadays?
Yeah, no, definitely. Every weekend I keep an eye out, and I know how well they did last year and how close they got. So, and I can see they've had a really good start this year as well. They've got to change that setup in the league now. There's got to be 2 clubs promoted and then 1 through the playoffs. It's not right. It's the only league it doesn't happen. And you've seen teams that do go up, compete and do very well. So, it's scandalous that hasn't yet changed, because you feel like if you just miss out from getting that top spot, that pressure really comes on within those playoffs. So if you had the top 2 and that gives them that opportunity that the best 2 teams in the league go in the conference go up, and then the 1 extra from the playoffs, it would be fantastic. So that is definitely one thing that has got to change.
I'm fan. There's a few players that are coming to the Solihull game to celebrate the 30th year anniversary. Does it feel like 30 years?
No, not at all. Not at all. I think, like I say, when you've been involved in football, you always have an involvement with football, and wow, 30 years is a long time. But I'm sure the lads that go to the game, and they'll get a great reception from the fans that are there, and I know they'll have a great day, and they'll be proud players to be there, and they've been a part of it. So yeah, 30 years goes by, but it just shows how, like I say, what a great night it was that we're still talking about it 30 years on.